Waterwight, Book 1, Chapter 5. I put food in the barn, Celeste told Ranger, and the door is unlatched. If you ever come back here, you can use it for shelter. She didn't want to leave her strange new friends behind. Ranger was focused only on Celeste in leading her away. You must find a larger pack for food, he told her. Your journey will be long. After finding a camping pack and filling it with what food she could carry, Celeste was ready to leave the abandoned farm. She walked alongside Ranger toward the southern gate. Floyd, Nemo, Butch, and Rex followed, on guard and satisfied with full bellies from the feast the previous night and the old apples left on the ground. By midday, the ragtag team had closed the gap between the farmhouse and the mysterious mountain range. Celeste was hungry and stopped to eat, but the dogs were accustomed to hunger. Must not stop for long. Ranger turned his attention to the others in his pack. He sniffed each of their muzzles before returning to Celeste's side, agitated. What's wrong? Celeste sensed Ranger's discomfort. Not certain. Ranger fixed his gaze on Butch. Let us go. Time for training. Training? Celeste stood to reposition her pack. Run with us, was all he said. The pack ran away from her. Not wanting to be left alone, she followed, slowly at first, but she soon gained on the sprinting animals. Once again, she marveled at her speed. Remembering her leaps from the previous day, Celeste focused on the open land beyond the pack and jumped. Ha ha! She shouted after landing and turning to face the approaching pack. She had been noticing changes in her body over the last year, but her new ability was astonishing. Again, Ranger barked, running past her as fast as he could, the others in tow. With barely a thought, Celeste was beyond them again. But Butch didn't stay with the pack. With eyes blazing red, he advanced on Celeste, a low growl building in his throat. Surprised and frightened by the dog's sudden aggression, Celeste continued her run toward the mountains, each leap increasing the distance between her and all of the animals. Turning around after her fourth and longest leap, she could see the pack in the distance and could hear the pained yelps when Ranger took down the possessed dog, the one who had eaten the apple with the shifter inside. She stood motionless, watching as Ranger, Floyd, Nemo, and Rex made their way to her slowly, their heads drooping and tails low. I don't understand. Did I do something wrong? Celeste fought back tears when she saw the lifeless form in the distance. Not you, Ranger told her. I fear the shifter took Butch. All eyes were on their fallen friend. It is finished. We move on. The shifter is gone now, too. The mountains looked bleaker than ever as the sad crew advanced. Those are the strangest mountains I've ever seen. Celeste broke the silence of the forlorn pack. That is where you must go. Over the mountains is where you will find the big water. From there you will go to the other side. Then you'll come with me. She couldn't accept her companions would be left behind to suffer and probably die. "We'll cross to the other side together." "It cannot be," Ranger explained. "You will understand when you get to the big water's edge. You must leap and leap until you can fly. Your powers will grow through practice. You must be ready for the challenge. You must make it to the other side." Celeste's leap across the pond had been easy. She wondered how much farther she would have to jump. With many miles remaining between the foothills and her team, she practiced, each leap seeming more effortless than the previous, until at last the terrain began to rise. When the 4 dogs finally caught up with her, Celeste could see they were spent. Panting heavily, they dropped to the ground around her, still on guard, but barely able to stand. She felt horrible. "We'll rest here tonight." Celeste noticed it was already dusk. Days seemed to pass too quickly in the world beyond the children's home. She was neither weary nor hungry, but sensed her protectors couldn't go much farther. "I have plenty of food to share." She removed her pack. "No." Ranger pulled himself up. "This is where you will master your power. We brought you to the mountain. You are near the big water, but you must close the final gap. You will find the way." She didn't want to leave her noble companions, but could feel the pull of the mountain top in what lay on the other side. She knelt among them, and they gathered close to her, expectantly. With misty eyes, she opened her arms to them, stroking each dusty coat and gratefully accepting their gentle licks beneath her quivering chin. "I will come back for you," she told them. "I don't know where I'm going or why, but I'll come back for you. You have done much for us already. Go now." Ranger nudged her with his muzzle. The others joined him. "Keep us in your thoughts." The dogs turned slowly to start their journey back to the farmhouse. "Oh, and Ranger?" Celeste stopped the pack. "Leave those foolish cats alone, okay?" Ranger didn't reply, but as she watched her new friends depart, she was certain she could hear them chuckling. She pushed aside her fear for them. Hoping to make it to the other side of the mountain before dark, Celeste bound over the craggy surface. Concerned her leather jacket might not be warm enough once she reached the snowy peaks, she was surprised when she felt warmer with each landing until finally she realized the white accumulation was not snow at all. Where the tree line ended, Celeste knelt to touch the ground. Her hand came back covered in ash. "Do not fear." A slow, thundering voice shook the ground beneath her. Not knowing where to turn or who was speaking, Celeste froze. She wasn't even sure she was hearing words at all, but the voice continued, and it slowly became clearer. "It does not burn," it continued more fluently, as if it had just remembered how to speak. "I will not hurt you. Leap forward, leap high, and look down. There you will find me." Celeste continued forward. The booming voice sounded kind. She leapt high above the sloping mountain, believing for the first time she could truly fly, and looking down, saw the enormous profile of an old bearded man protruding from the stone just below the mountain's peak. Only his right eye and that half of his face emerged. The other half remained hidden in the expansive mountain range. Maintaining her position in the air above the chiseled character, she watched his one huge eye open as if waking from an endless sleep. He looked up at her, and his granite lips shifted into a smile. "Come down," he boomed, "and rest upon my nose." Hovering above the talking stone profile, Celeste considered her options. She could remain suspended in the air and continue her flight over the peak, but something compelled her to do as the mountain asked. She landed lightly on the tip of the boulder nose and waited. "You are Celeste," the mountain spirit spoke, and Celeste clung to a gnarled root that looked like a vein in the crook of his nose to keep from falling over. His words came slowly and thunderously, and Celeste's ears adjusted to understand them. "You may stay here until morning. I will watch over you." Inexplicably lightheaded the moment she heard his last words, Celeste slumped to the ground. But she had no energy to continue. "Tomorrow," the mountain's voice quaked, rolling Celeste into a mossy nook in which she drifted into an earthbound slumber. She wouldn't notice the luminous full moon until it began its slide over the peak the following morning. She dreamt. Groups of people gathered around a lake, and a lone teenage girl sat in a garden beyond them. Then the feeling of falling into a dark cavern. Swing sets and sand castles and a familiar, surreal song filled her senses. A fuzzy vision of her parents, a cloaked, bearded man, and then swirling and swirling. That ends chapter 5 of book 1.